Welcome to How We Test Software at Microsoft, video podcast, Chapter 1. With me today is Alan Page. My name is Ken Johnston, and our co-author, DJ Rollison, couldn't be with us today. Alan, we wanted to cover today the first chapter of our book, and that's really the one that kind of sets up what Microsoft is about.
Exactly.
And, I know my own self, I've got experiences in some parts of Microsoft. I worked in MSN, I worked in Engineering Excellence, which is where you and I met, and now I'm working in Office, so I've done server and services. What about yourself?
I started off on the Windows 95 team, and I worked on Internet Explorer for a while, went back to Windows, did a brief little stint testing video capture drivers on Windows 2000. And then from there, I worked for about 5 years on Windows CE, and then came to Engineering Excellence after that. So a lot of variety.
A lot of variety, just like me. But I mean, Microsoft is even bigger than that. We've got our games division. We've got really successful games in Halo. We've got hardware devices in Xbox and the Zoom product. We've got a lot of web services, very popular Xbox Live, the Windows Live services, and all sorts of applications, whether it's the Office Productivity Suite or the Internet Explorer browser, as well as major server products, SharePoint and SQL Server. The thing that's interesting about Microsoft, and you and I have had the chance to experience this, is so many different products within one company and the chance to work on different areas of software engineering. This is one of the great things about Microsoft.
I would describe that as an advantage of working here, is you can change jobs without leaving the company.
Which you and I have
completely
both done.
sometimes, right?
Yes. But but out of that, all that work gets done by engineers. So why don't you tell people a little bit about the engineers
Sure,
at Microsoft?
Sure. We have about 35,000 what we call engineers at Microsoft, and that covers all the disciplines, everything from I'll talk about in a minute, the triad, developer, testers, and program managers, as well as designers, user experience designers. We have
managers, research,
people doing localization, people doing
creative that do the storyboards for the games,
all kinds of stuff. Everybody that works on making these products and bringing them to the public. But the bulk of that, out of those 35,000, about 25,000 of those are development, program management, and test. And the book goes fairly deeply into what those roles do, but for this, I'll give you the tester's perspective, and that is the program managers design the bugs, then the developers write the bugs, and then the testers try to find the bugs. And that pretty much sums
That's pretty
up.
much how, I think that's a good perspective on software engineering at Microsoft.
So those are the roles, and the really interesting thing is, especially in recent years, maybe you can talk about this, is that those 35,000 engineers, they're not all in Redmond. It used to be we did almost all of our development in Redmond, but we do maybe 70%. Do you know the numbers?
Yes, I do, because I actually had to do the research on it. But I mean, I remember when I started at Microsoft, it was such a Redmond-centric place.
Mm-hmm.
You never considered that there were engineers outside of Redmond. And for the book, I was able to go back and look at some of the hiring statistics at Microsoft. And just 4 years ago, 81% of the workforce was here in Redmond. I couldn't find quite the exact numbers from when I was hired back in the late 90s, but I'm sure it was well over 90% then. But just in the few years since 2004, we're now down to 73% of the workforce is here in Redmond. And in that time, the China Development Center has grown massively, the India Development Center has grown massively. And another interesting aspect was that a lot of this, a lot of the collaboration software and the remote meeting software, one of the practices we've changed at Microsoft, and I'm sure you were aware of this back in the 90s when we used to acquire companies, we would often relocate all of our engineers here to Redmond because that's where we did software. But in recent years, we will acquire a company and we'll let them stay in the same facilities they started their company in. And that's a really good thing, because I remember being in a meeting with some of the executives, and they were talking about the global workforce at Microsoft. And the real challenge we have is that we are the biggest software company in the world, and we need to go where the talent is. We can't expect everybody to want to move here to Redmond, Washington. It's a great place to live, but there's a lot of other places to live in the world, and so we go where the talent is. And I think that's the major shift, and we've learned how to be a global software engineering company in recent years. What's interesting is you were talking about all the testers or the tester perspective. Out of those 35,000 engineers, 25,000 of them being developers, testers, and program managers, there's a little over 9,000 software testers at Microsoft. And in Chapter 2, the next episode of this series, we'll go into a lot of the history and the roles that test engineers play at Microsoft. And with such a huge workforce of testers, what are the career paths at Microsoft like for test engineers? So until next time, if you'd like to catch up on any of the blog postings or other information about the book, be sure to check out our website, How We Test Software at Microsoft.com, HWTSAM.com.
That's the one.
Thanks.
Bye.